Welcome to The Northerner Now, your breakdown of everything happening in Northern Kentucky and right here on the campus of NKU, straight from the staff of The Northerner. I'm your host, Emily Sisk, editor-in-chief for The Northerner, and I'm joined with
Alex Perez, co-sports editor here at The Northerner.
And Jakob Staley, the other co-sports editor.
So the three of us are going to take you through what's been happening this last week, breaking down our top trending stories, and looking into all of our different sections, so news, sports, and arts and life. And of course, we'll have some fun along the way looking at headlines in the community and taking a peek back at this week in NKU history. So to start us off with our top trending story of the week, this is all about the Kentucky Day of DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So last Friday, at all public universities in the state, there were rallies on campus, and those rallies were in support of DEI, but also against House Bill 4. So just to explain that a little bit, House Bill 4 was filed in the Kentucky House of Representatives almost a month ago at this point, and the whole gist of the bill is that it is seeking to eliminate DEI programs. So everything from like mandatory diversity training, diversity scholarships, different offices or positions who work with DEI, those would all be eliminated if this bill passes. So we actually caught up with some students at the rally, talked to them about kind of what was going on, and I'm going to play a clip from that video so that you all can get a taste of what was happening on Friday. Here's that now.
So today is actually a statewide Kentucky Day of DEI, and essentially showing to the entire state the students do not stand for what is going on, and the students do not want diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to be removed from federal funding.
A lot of DEI programs are being banned, and it's a direct attack on people like me who are part of the queer community. And not only does this affect me, but it affects everyone regardless of who you identify, race, color, sexuality, gender identity, etc. This is all affecting us one way or another, and we're just simply here to make it clear. And we're using our voice to make sure that these diversity, equity, and inclusion programs stay in Kentucky.
So again, that was just a soundbite of a few students there at the rally. That was Justin Stokes at the beginning, and then Ren Loneman there at the end. At one point on Friday, we believe there were about 100 students that were gathered on the Student Union Plaza. Some people had signs, they were leading chants, they marched around the campus. That was at 1 p.m. And after the protest, NKU did release a statement just talking about the rallies themselves. That statement said, quote, "We respect the rights of our students to express their views and engage in peaceful protest. We are committed to fostering an environment where a wide variety of thoughts and opinions are encouraged and supported," end quote. So for more all about that event, to see photos that really captured it, there was again a video all about it. Please go check out thenortherner.com. That has been our top trending story, honestly, since that came out. And just to kind of wrap that up, so the bill that they were protesting, House Bill 4, that's not a new idea. There was similar legislation that came about last year. Ultimately, it did not pass, but again, it's back this year. House Bill 4 has been assigned to committee. It's been assigned to the Post-Secondary Education Committee, but it has yet to be heard. And for reference, this legislative session is shorter, so legislators have until March 14th to pass any remaining bills. So nothing's happened yet. At the time of recording, there's like less than 10 days for them to do anything. So with that trending story, just want to turn to Alex and Jacob. Were you guys around? Did you see the rally happening? Have you kind of been hearing about this on campus at all?
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing about the legislation, and it's been good to see the protests and just the student body being able to have a voice for themselves, and especially administration coming out, because you may not see that at every school, the administration actually being at the protests as well.
Mm-hmm.
So having them heard, especially like from them in person, was really special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what about you, Jacob?
I wasn't like at the protest, but I just think it's great seeing people be able to share their voice on campus in like a safe, peaceful way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just great.
Yeah, I will say I know just from like the research I had done. So again, this happened at every public university. I know like at Western Kentucky University, there was kind of a counter protest that came up, and though that got, I actually saw some photos, it got a little bit violent in a way. I know like there was some like pushing and shoving going on. None of that happened at NKU. And kind of to Alex's point, I even saw like Provost Diana McGill. She was there. I saw her at one point like helping a student like with a sign. Like they were kind of being there as a support mechanism, you might say. I feel like they were kind of probably doing that under the radar, but there were administrators there. So very interesting. Again, we're going to keep an eye on this just to see what happens with the bill, especially in the next coming weeks. So that was our top trending story of the week. And then just to highlight a few other things going on in the news section, the School of Media and Communication, and that is within the College of Informatics, it has a new director. Our news reporter for the Northerner, Lillian Ramsey, she talked with Dr. Andrea Lambert South. She is the new director. Dr. South has been at NKU since 2006. She's a professor in the communications department. She has held some previous leadership roles. I know, for example, she was the program head and also directed the graduate program. So now she is in this new role. The School of Media and Communication Director kind of oversees and supervises the faculty in the school, and the person that she is taking the place of is Dr. Stephen Youngblood. I know he's been doing that ever since the school first started, which was a couple years ago. So that's been going on in our news section. And then finally, before we go to our first commercial break, I was able to write a story it was actually in our February magazine and just got published online. It was all about Black History Month, which of course was in February. Got to speak with two Black professors here at NKU, Dr. Vanessa Hunn and Dr. David Childs, and it kind of talked about their backgrounds, careers, and also just the value of representation, especially in college, being able to see other professors, their students who kind of look like you. For reference, in 2024, 77.9% of all full-time faculty at the university were white and 6.5% were Black. So we kind of talked about that. Again, feel free to check that article out online at thenortherner.com. And before our next March magazine comes out, you can pick that up at any remaining places where it might be on campus. And whenever we come back from our next break, we're going to take a look at what's been happening around the community in headlines from Northern Kentucky. And our sports editors are here to break down everything that's been happening in sports. Obviously, getting into March Madness is a big time. We're going to talk about what's going on with NKU and much more. That's coming up when we return on The Northerner Now.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Smokey the Bear.
Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do.
Don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at SmokeyBear.com. And remember,
only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to The Northerner Now. I'm your host, Emily Sisk, joined with our sports editors, Alex Perez and Jakob Staley. So now that we're back, we're going to take a look at what's happening this week in headlines around the community. A couple of really interesting stories. So first one is that Cincinnati Reds legend Pete Rose has been promised a Hall of Fame pardon by none other than President Donald Trump. So Trump posted on the social media platform Truth that Major League Baseball did not have, quote, the courage or decency to put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. And he has kind of tried to guarantee that he is going to get him in there. Just for context, Rose was basically banned from baseball for betting on games. Y'all jump in if I'm like, wrong on this.
You're right.
But he recently passed away, so he died in September of last year. This report came from Local 12. I just want to ask these guys, Do you think that this is actually going to happen? Do you think in like the next years we're going to see Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame?
I feel like even like immediately after his passing, they talked about like maybe that's a possibility that he would be introduced into the Hall of Fame after that. So I feel like Trump may take the credit for it, but like I feel like it could happen for sure.
Yeah, I'm with Alex on that one. I think it could happen, but I think the Reds are going to have a more like memorial for him kind of thing, more than just being in the Hall of Fame.
That makes sense. I do feel like his recent passing kind of like expedited all this talk. I mean, it hasn't even been a year yet. But yeah, I mean, especially in this area, he's a legend. I think, okay, real quick, I just got to ask you guys this because it's really interesting. Do you think the perception among most people like in the area is that he should be in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we will see about that, but that's what Donald Trump has just recently said just a couple days ago. And then also from Local 12, Mardi Gras came to Finley Market in Cincinnati. That was on Sunday, and customers got to sample different kind of Mardi Gras inspired foods like gumbo, king cake, jambalaya, a lot more stuff. Want to ask them, what Mardi Gras food would you be chowing down on?
King cake.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We had cookies in class earlier, so that was really good.
Yes.
Got to find the little baby in there.
I don't know anything of, like, I'm so uncultured on this.
Me too, honestly.
Like, I don't know what king cake is. I need to go look it up. But I think I will be trying some gumbo. That sounds pretty good to me.
For sure.
So that's what's been going on this week in Northern Kentucky and right across the river. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alex and Jacob for what's been happening in sports.
So let's talk a little basketball the last week of the regular season. We'll go with women's basketball first. They came into the week fighting for that 5 spot in the last bye for the first round. First game was against Detroit, somebody who they were fighting for that 5th spot, and unfortunately an 81-75 loss, which kept them from the 4th seed as well. They did have some position for it, but it failed there. So Maya Meredith was the star of the show in that game with a team-high 21 points. NKU was actually down by 18 at one point, but they fought all the way back and had a chance to tie or take the lead with 43 seconds left. So a valiant effort. Was there anything else you saw, Jacob?
Yeah, they just struggled from both ends of the floor in the first half, shooting only 28%. But yeah, they did try to mount a comeback there, but just fell short.
Yeah, a big thing I saw was like hustle plays, 17-8 advantage in fast break, and a 42-32 advantage in the points in the paint, so that was huge for them. And then NKU went to Oakland, and then Detroit lost to IU-Indy earlier that day, so that so an NKU win would get them the 5 seed, and that's what they did. They got that 5 seed and the first round bye. It was 61-58. NKU dominated most of the game before Oakland, kind of like NKU in the last game, kind of made a last-ditch effort to try to come back. But they fell short. Was there anything huge that stood out to you?
Defense in the first half, they only held Oakland to 20 points, which their defense is going to be huge coming up in the tournament.
Yeah, and that was an Oakland team that was obviously playing with some desperation there at the end because they hadn't won a game since February 1st. So that was a big-time thing that they were trying to pull off there. But all the things I noticed was like great defense. They forced Oakland into 38% shooting and 33% from deep. And then next up for the women, they have a first-round bye, so their quarterfinal will be Thursday at Robert Morris at 5:30, and that can be seen on ESPN+. So men's basketball, we'll move to that. They came in right around the 6th or 7th spot, fighting for those. The first game was NKU at Purdue-Fort Wayne. It was a 79-74 win. Really a game of a big three. Dan Goretzka, Trey Robinson, and L.J. Wells combined for 54 of the 79 points. They shot almost 50% from the field and held Purdue-Fort Wayne to 25% from 3. NKU won points in the paint 54-36, so a big part of those big 3 points were in the paint. And NKU also forced isolation ball. Purdue-Fort Wayne only had 6 assists. Was there anything else you noticed, Jacob?
Yeah, Dan was like key down the stretch. He scored 10 points in the final 7 minutes, and he could be huge in the tournament with those game-tying games at the end.
Absolutely. And then it was senior day for the men as they played Youngstown State, looking for 4 straight, and NKU got it, winning 88-79. NKU led by as many as 19, and double digits for 4 out of the 5 starters. NKU shot really well, 51 from the field and 38 from 3. And they even from free throw, like they're last in the Horizon League, as we know, in free throw percentage, but they shot 82% in this game. Was there anything else you noticed, Jacob?
Kean and Tijere perfect from the field, 12 points. Huge dunk, 2 of them. But
yes.
And then got dunked on. And then he had 2 huge blocks. Dan hit the dagger for the Norse to win. And, so all-around game.
Yeah, another big game for them in the paint, 34-20 advantage there. And we spoke with Darren Horn after the game, and he just talked about the seniors and the impact they made on this program. So here's that.
We got really special dudes, man. We got really high-level dudes. And, we could be here all day if I went through them individually, but these are guys that have just given so much to our program, and they've been about winning, man. They've been about winning.
And that was Darren Horn. So the next up is a first-round matchup tonight, as we mentioned, with Detroit, who they've split a season series with, so we're really looking forward to that. And the last thing we have to cover is the Horizon League awards from the basketball season. Kamora Morgan won All-Horizon League freshman team, and Trey Robinson only got third-team All-Horizon League despite being 6th in scoring, 9th in rebounds, 6th in field goal percentage, top 20 in free throw percentage, minutes, and block shots, and 6th in steals. Horizon League, what are we doing?
Kind of robbed.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, I know obviously we're biased, but every time Coach Horn's like, Trey Robinson's the best player in this league.
And he should be the second All-Horizon League team at worst.
At least, right. Yeah, interesting. Well, that is our look at sports, and before we go to our next commercial break, we got to play our fun little game here. So this is going to be This or That NKU edition. I'm going to let Jacob kick us off with the first question.
Best guest speaker, George Bush or Sister Cindy?
I would think I'm leaning towards George Bush. It's kind of hard to go against a presidential pick, so I'd probably say that's who I would pick.
Do you want to explain for us who Sister Cindy is, either one of y'all?
Ho No Mo.
Yeah.
That's what she is.
That's what it is.
That is her movement on social media.
Exactly. If you don't know, she's like a social media influencer. She basically just goes around to college campuses, right? Like that's kind of like her whole stick. And she talks about like abstinence and like sexual promiscuity. She was here last year in 2024. Apparently, I did not even know this. George Bush was here in 2006. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with George Bush. I would love to meet a president, so I'm going to take him.
Absolutely. So hopefully we never have to experience this, but if we were like stuck here and had to stay overnight on campus, would we rather stay overnight in the Science Center or the Campus Rec Center?
I'll go with the Rec Center. You got the pool, basketball court. You got a bunch of stuff to do. You can't be bored. But trying to hide in there might be difficult.
True.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like, I would go with the Rec Center, but they have so many employees there.
Yeah.
They are too vigilant. So I think I'm going to say the Science Center. I've only been in there like 3-4 times, usually only when I'm going to like interview someone or do a story, to be fair. But there's so many things to explore in there. So I'm going to check out this Science Center.
I think for me, I would go with the Rec Center just because I'm obviously a big sports guy and there's tons of sports to do in there. May get a little hungry, but I could figure something out. They have vending machines in there, I think. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I'll be okay.
Just break into those, so you'll be good.
Probably go with that.
Awesome. Well, that is going to take us into our next commercial break, and when we come back, we'll take you through what's been going on in our Arts and Life section, and then what's happening in coming events at NKU. It's all coming up right here on The Northerner Now.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone or just taking a deep, calming breath to ground yourself. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. She wasn't even really sure where she was at.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
And we're back with The Northerner now. Again, I'm your host, Emily Sisk, joined with sports editors Alex Perez and Jakob Staley. So turning now to what is coming up on NKU's campus. On Friday, this Friday night at 8:15, there is a laser music show, and that's going to be in the Hale Planetarium over in the Science Center. The light show is actually going to be synced up to music from the band Owl City, and I know there were actually some middle school students involved in this. I think some of their work is getting displayed. So really interesting event over in the Hale Planetarium. On the note of the theme there, can you guys name an Owl City song?
I've heard the name, but I don't think I can.
Interesting.
Is Fireflies one?
Correct. I think, do you know Fireflies, Alex?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay. I think Fireflies is probably their number one. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot of other ones. So if we want to know more about Owl City or hear more Owl City songs, go Friday night to the planetarium. Should be fun. I know they've been doing a ton of events, so really interesting stuff going on over there. And then there, of course, is one big upcoming event at NKU, and that is Spring Break, which is coming up next week. It's the 10th through the 14th. I, for one, cannot wait. Just wanted to ask you guys, what's going on your spring break agenda? I know, obviously, possibly basketball, perhaps, but tell me about what you got coming up on spring break.
Yeah, me and Jacob will be going to the Horizon League tournament if NKU makes it to the semifinals. So that'll be down there in Indy that Monday and Tuesday. And then for me, I'll get a day break on that Wednesday, and then me and some buddies are going down to the SEC tournament in Nashville from Thursday to Sunday.
Oh, that's fun.
Dang.
We're very excited about that.
Full week of basketball.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Jacob, what are you doing?
I'm not doing much. My sister has a wedding shower thing Saturday. I think it's Saturday. I'm a great brother. Yeah, if they make it, going with Alex, but I'm kind of chilling. I kind of need the break.
I was going to say, I feel like that's a good balance sometimes. Sometimes I've taken trips, and then I come back, and I'm like, all right, now I'm exhausted even more.
Do you have any plans, Emily?
Well, since you mentioned it, Alex, actually I do. I'm kind of, no, I was going to say I'm kind of pressed, but I'm not. I was hoping to get to go to the Horizon League tournament. However, I'm going to Disney. So I'm not pressed about missing. Exactly. No, I'm super excited. I have been my boyfriend is working there. He's in the college program, has been there all semester. I've been dying to see him, dying to go visit. He's getting us free tickets. So I cannot wait. That's what I'm going to be doing, and hopefully doing no work. Hopefully. We'll see. Except for basketball stuff's happening, then I'll have to be editing stories, but we'll see what happens. So we hope that everyone listening has a great spring break if you're a student, and we will obviously not be here next week because of that, but we'll catch you again the following week. So now looking to our Arts and Life section, what's been happening there. Dance 25 took place last weekend. It returned to the Corbett Theater over in the Fine Arts Center for the first time since 2023. And that was after there was pretty major construction done to the Fine Arts Center. Jacob, I know you even have written stories about that construction. It's kind of been an ongoing thing. So they finished the Corbett Theater, I believe it was around last November. Yep. And now it's finally kind of open for action again. So Dance 25, again, that happens about every year. And they have choreographers that will come in and do all different genres of dance. This year, our managing and arts and life editor, Emery Davis, he reported on it and said there were 9 different genres of dance throughout the weekend. So anything from African dance to ballet, hip hop, jazz, and a lot more. He was able to speak with the director and a couple of those student performers kind of about their work about all the things that went into the show, just the impact of it returning back to the Corbett Theater. Interestingly, he talked to one of the students who was younger. I believe he maybe was a sophomore. His name was Jay Smith, and said that, I'll just quote it. He said, "I've only ever danced in Greaves Hall." He said, "They've been working on it since I came to school, and it's so incredible to see it on a premium stage that is actually set for dance." So really interesting to think about. Obviously, you know, Alex and I have been here for longer, but to think about students who come in that they actually haven't gotten to really perform or be in like their space on campus yet. So really interesting that, again, happened over this past weekend, and check that out at our website. There were also some incredible photos. Emery's just insane photographer. Like, we all know that. I was shocked. Like, when I saw the pictures, I was like, this is freaking awesome. So check that out online to kind of hear more about that and to see what happened this last weekend. Speaking of Emery again, he also completed a photo gallery that was last week. It was all about desserts with Delta Gamma. One of our production members, actually a couple people on staff, are part of DG. So I'm like, hopefully I get this right. They're going to correct me if I say something wrong. But essentially, it's like a philanthropy event. It's one of their biggest events of the year for Delta Gamma. They auction off desserts that are prepared by the sorority members. And all of that philanthropy goes to the Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Have y'all heard of this event, or have you ever attended even before?
Definitely attended it in my first time at NKU.
Right.
I did that. They make cakes for fraternities and other organizations within NKU, so it's really cool to see, and I'm not one who shies away from sweets, so
exactly.
I really enjoy the event.
Yes. But I also saw there was, okay, I'm like scrolling through the photos right now. There was also a cupcake eating contest. I need to know more about who won that, but yeah, there were like fraternity members that were blindfolded and they had to eat as many cupcakes as they possibly could. So lots of action at Desserts with DG. Have to ask you guys very quickly before our last segment, what's your go-to dessert if you got to make something?
I am a terrible baker, so I would say no-bake cookies, like peanut butter chocolate.
Okay. Yeah, you can't mess those up. Really, you can't. Jacob?
I bake a lot, but I don't even know. I guess brownies. They're simple, easy.
That's another one. You can't go wrong with brownies.
True.
I love that. Awesome. Well, that was what was happening in arts and life. And for our final segment of the day, we're going to take you through our weekly archive of what happened this week in NKU history. 2 quick stories. So the first one was from back in 2014, at this point just over a decade ago, and it was all about the topic of NKU students and their internet freedom, which is kind of interesting to think about even like 10 years later. I don't even think we would talk about this, but it addressed quote unquote red light policies, and NKU had earned this like red light rating by saying that they were like making sure that students weren't doing like harassing activities, like anything that could be threatening online. Very interesting to me. I don't really know much, like I've never even heard about this. Like when Adeline sent us this story, I was like, what? Like I've never heard of like a red light, like student internet freedom. I don't know. That was interesting. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about, I looked through our old archives. This was back from 1991. I just wanted to mention, I just found this really intriguing. In our old newspaper, they would have a bunch of different like coupons from like local restaurants. First of all, I just want to mention some of these. So Arby's had a coupon for a roast beef and Swiss for 99 cents.
Nice.
And then the Norse Grill, which I don't know if this exists or if like it was a name change or something, so it was a place on campus, they were offering an Italian steak hoagie for $1.89.
That's like, a deal.
Let's bring that back. Yeah. So really interesting. Again, that was from the 90s, or 1991, early 90s. So that's kind of what was happening back in history of NKU. And at this point, that's about all we have for today. So we want to thank you for joining us on this edition of The Northerner Now. Be sure to check out our social media at Northerner Media for more stories. Find us online at thenortherner.com. Be on the lookout for our next March magazine, which will come back after spring break. And from my host, Emily Sisk, and from
Alex Perez,
Jakob Staley,
we hope you have a great week, have a great spring break, and we will see you next time.